So first of all, good evening and thanks a lot for having me. It's a great pleasure. And coming back to the top 12, I know it's a bit strange, but I started with top 10 and then I figured out there are another two I simply do not want to miss. So I joined into the top 12. I hope you will be lenient with me. Okay, so this is the current state of my mind. That might change in the near future, but let's delve into it. So what are we talking about? First of all, I'm a true believer that an agile cannot be pushed, it needs to be pulled. And this pulling thingy requires a few things. First of all, you need to have a different mindset by the traditional corporate mindset. I know systems define cultures and mindset follows cultures, but you get an understanding here. Changing the culture typically requires, in an agile setup, a descaling of the organization. And a critical part of that is actually to empower the people closest to the problem to solve it. Of course, providing guardrails and governance rules and whatnot, but just to sketch the problematic scene that we have here. So now that we have this introduction, let's have a look. By the way, number one is not just the most important, it's just the first slide. So you can change them in any road you will see. Precise estimates, that is my favorite. First of all, it's an oxymoron, right? It's an estimate, so it's a forecast. It is an informed guess, but by all means, it cannot be precise. I mean, predictions are hard, particularly if they concern the future. And I always like to say, if I could predict the future, I wouldn't be working here, but make money on the stock exchange, right? So same happens to precise estimates. Of course, there is a valid reason behind it, in the sense that, okay, how much is it and when can I have it? These are legitimate questions from our stakeholders because they need to plan too, right? Think about the whole organization being a network of interwoven plans. If you have a bit of an interest in history, you may remember that the whole planned economy thingy was a gigantic disaster. So I still don't know why we are still facing precise estimates. This may be acceptable in the case that there are reasonable deadlines. There could be reasonable deadlines. For example, there's a contractual obligation or there's a legal requirement we need to meet. But it really doesn't work in the form of precise estimates. This is simply not working. We may talk about forecasts, and if we really get good at forecasts, we might be good in the sense that our stakeholders learn to appreciate that we really put in the effort, that we're not trying to fool them, and that if we say, okay, it approximately takes 3 weeks, that we really believe it's 3 weeks and not just 4 or 6. So take some time, which is also the reason that building trust is so important. You know, you do not want your stakeholders, you know, standing behind you, breathing down your neck. You want to be empowered as a team and do the best you can to actually solve your customers' problems. So precise estimates certainly on my list of absolutely nightmarish anti-patterns. Dogmatism. I don't know whether you have encountered people in the industry, for example, Scrum Masters that started to refer to whatever controversy was going on to immediately to the Scrum Guide, in the sense that, okay, this is not part of the Scrum Guide, so we won't do it. And they don't believe you, say, okay, where in the Scrum Guide is this written? And, you know, I mean, we try to create value in a complex environment, which by definition means we have a limited understanding what we actually like to achieve. But what outcome shall we try to accomplish to help our customers, right? And applying dogmatism to the situation does not feel right, and it usually does not work at all. So dogmatism certainly is an anti-pattern. I strongly disagree with, and it simply does not help. Um, in my experience, people who are dogmatic are very often insecure because they believe they do not really understand what's going on. And quite often that might be the case. So if someone is dogmatic, help them overcome their dogmatism by helping them to feel accepted the way they are. And if they still have to learn something, that is fine. Ask how you can help them so they do not feel mm, obliged to seek refuge in dogmatism. Just own what you are lacking and what you need to learn. That's totally fine with everyone. No one starts as an expert with a new topic. Okay, so dogmatism out of the question. Number three, the oversized product backlog. Well, I know humans have a fable for being busy and planning ahead, forging your own destiny and instead of becoming, a victim of whatever's going on in the world. The problem, of course, is that if you put together a large product backlog, because Jira is very permissive with the number of items you add to your project, it really does not help. I don't know about you, but the moment my product backlog exceeds maybe 100 entries, I really find it very hard to deal with it because I actually have to start looking at these things, because I can't remember them anymore. And this is not a good situation. So practically, what is really helpful is to have a short, actionable product backlog. So maybe a product backlog that covers the next 2 or 3 sprints maximum, no more, for various reasons. So first of all, the larger the product backlog, the more people feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable working with it. So you start to crowd out collaboration because simply of the sheer mass of entries there. Secondly, whenever I do some forensic analysis on why a team is not really performing, I always run across a huge product backlog. It's always the same. Hundreds of items, thousands of items, partly items that haven't been touched in 6, 9, 12 months. No one has a clue why they ended up in there. And that's very, very common. So the oversized product backlog is not just wasteful because you created it, it's even worse because it supports several ways of behavior. It shapes behavior in a way that we don't want. What we want is a collaborative approach on the product backlog, the whole team pulling in the same direction. Life is a negotiation, and Scrum is no different. The product owner is not the individual that creates the product backlog. No, they're directing the effort, but the team is actually covering for this, right? And so you want to have the team involved. You want to have a short, precise, focused backlog, and anything beyond a small number, you have to figure out what the number is in your context. Everything else is just waste. Not to mention that people believe that product backlogs in general are waste, because we're creating some sort of inventory that is expensive and that we might never actually follow up to. But anyway, so oversized product backlog, not a good idea. Keep it small, keep it actionable, depending on what kind of product you're working on. So I feel comfortable with about 100 entries, but no more, absolutely no more. Developers develop, period. There is this strange idea, mainly on the leadership and management level, that developers just develop, because they're so expensive and so rare, they're so hard to find, and you like to keep them at all costs. And the moment you suggest, hey, why don't we volunteer for an afternoon every month in customer care to get a first-hand experience about all the problems our customers explain to us, they start looking at you if you are out of your mind. How dare you? A customer care agent earns a fraction of what a developer earns, and you want to waste money that time. Instead, they could develop more code and more features, whatnot. But this is really not meeting the point here. What I believe is tremendously helpful if developers talk to customers. This may be in the form of user interviews. It may be in the form of regularly supporting customer care in support efforts, right? But developers need to talk to customers, and without anything being lost in translation. So you don't want to have someone sitting between your developers and the customers. So for example, the user experience department, because it's not part of your team, or the PMO or the salespeople, because they're scared that your developers might talk to their prospective clients and ruin their sales pitch. This is all not helpful. In my experience, developers also like to talk to customers. Not all of them, but a certain percentage point. So in my experience, at least 50% of your developers are interested in talking to customers and visiting customers and observing customers, how they solve problems with their own software. So in my world, it's mission critical that developers directly talk to customers. It makes life so much easier. On the other side, if that is not happening for various reasons, cost concerns, people not interested, sales blocking, you really already have a recipe for what is going on and what you should tackle next as a Scrum Master. So I would suggest that is a very good idea. So I would always say thumbs up for my developers talk to my customers directly. So when I was working as a product owner and I organized these interviews, I basically trained my developers how the interviews work, but then they would actually run the interviews and I was taking notes. So that was really awesome. So I can suggest that give it a try. If you haven't yet done this, set up a retrospective and ask, okay, might this be an improvement to our current way of working? What do you think about it? Shall we run an experiment? And it's not expensive running this kind of experiment. And after that, you can take it to the next level if it proves to be successful. So number 4, developers should talk to customers. Number 5, we know what to do. You will find this attitude very often in organizations where the team is regarded as some sort of internal agency, that is tasked with, okay, you create what we want you to create because we're funding your team. So the classic setup of the feature factory, right? The more you create, the better. And we want you to improve your way of creating stuff so we can feed more requirements to you. So this is all nightmarish. And I always ask myself, okay, why are you so secure that you exactly know what our customers want and need? How is that coming to you? And why is it that we don't know about this? And it's the reason why we cannot talk to customers. I mean, not that we distrust you, but as I mentioned earlier, it is highly beneficial if the team talks to customers directly without having anyone in between them that is translating customer ideas, requirements, needs into something that the team should build. And by the way, it is very easy to fall in love with your solution as a stakeholder instead of loving the problem of the customer. And it takes some training and to actually get there, and not all stakeholders actually can deliver that level of competence. So there's another reason from a risk mitigation perspective that you as a team should insist on, no, you don't know what needs to be done because we need to talk to our customers too. So don't listen to the people who believe in knowing that exactly what customers want, because they regularly don't know. Skipping Agile and crisis. Okay, so there is some sort of crisis popping up, and the first thing that comes to mind is the leadership level. The management says, "Okay, we skip this kindergarten, and we go back to the classic command and control style because I know exactly how to handle this and where to go and what to do, and I will lead and you follow." And I always ask myself, okay, do you really believe that we were not capable of figuring out what to do here? I mean, if it's something is really, really, really pressing and urging, if there's a crisis, uh, there's a simple way. You just cancel the current sprint and use replan, and then you focus on fixing the problem. And then you go back to the usual way of working. You know, this is very common. It's a normal part of our business life. So I really have no clue why skipping agile in a crisis would be even a thought worth entertaining. You know, because we can perfectly handle whatever crisis is thrown at us. You know, we're grown-ups, we're professionals. We know exactly what we need to do to handle a crisis. You know, just let us be in a position that we actually can provide our knowledge, our enthusiasm to do that. So don't skip agile in a crisis. Project management in disguise. You may have come across this moment when you believe that, okay, supposedly we're doing, for example, Scrum here, but actually this is just project management 2.0. You know, now the project manager is someone else, has a different title. And otherwise, everything is handled in the same way. So we create reports, and actually, our sprint planning looks more like a breakdown of a Gantt chart, and we're sure that somewhere in the background everything is aggregated again, and so everyone feels comfortable. And probably someone will be reporting these classic. The item is finished by 72%. And yeah, very strange. And so project management is, guys, is, I believe, having significantly more often than a lot of people would be willing to say. And that's something I always like to watch out. It starts, for example, with the product owner providing the sprint goal in the sprint planning, which of course is complete nonsense, right? Because well, it is a prerogative of the product owner to provide the business objective of the upcoming sprint. So what is most valuable to work on for the next 2 weeks, for example? It's the Scrum team that is turning the business objective into a sprint goal. And then we have the developers committing to the sprint goal. And because of their commitment, they're allowed to pick the work that they deem necessary to accomplish the sprint goal. And no one tells them how to accomplish the work they pick. You know, it's all up to them. So Scrum has a very fine, dedicated checks and balance system built into it for a purpose. And because we would really like to exactly avoid this kind of old school project management planning while we work on complex problems. You know, so we're all just tired of victories in Excel and Gantt charts and whatnot. So watch out if that is happening. Number 8, the lonely team. You can be as engaged as possible as a Scrum team. If your stakeholders are not chipping in, if they're not supporting you, if they're not engaged, it is very, very lonely. And I'm not saying that this is inevitable. I do not expect my stakeholders to immediately support us wholeheartedly because we now say, hey, we're now doing Scrum. I don't expect them to understand this, but and I'm fine with a certain period of selling Agile, selling Scrum to them, help them understand why this is beneficial for everyone involved, stakeholders included, and what their job is, and how important their support is for the team to actually make progress towards the best possible goal here. And sometimes you have to be creative. So, for example, a few years ago, I was the interim head of product for a large startup here in Berlin, and we had this trouble with actually no one attending for our sprint review. So we had 4 teams, and there were no stakeholders. It was quite lonely. And we thought, okay, what about if we give away a few small items to those stakeholders who actually make it to the sprint review? In other words, we started bribing them, and it actually worked very, very well. So word got around, more stakeholders showed up, and we also were generous, giving away small work items to them until we reached the tipping point where we said, okay, from now on, it's no longer necessary to actually bribe people to attend here, because by now they have understood how we work, how they can help us, and how we help them to be successful too. So is that part of the Scrum Guide? No, last time I checked, bribing was not part of the Scrum Guide. Did it work? Yes, absolutely. Was it tailored to our context? Yes, you bet. Would I recommend doing that in any organization? Yeah, probably not. So I just wanted to share this little story from the perspective that you need to be creative in the way that you convince your stakeholders to support you, to help you as a team really create value. And as the old saying goes, bait the hook, feed the fish. And it's important that the bait is tasty for the fish, not for you. So if your stakeholders love to receive a sort of sprint report before the start of the sprint review, where you summarize what was accomplished or something like that, okay, so be it, right? It's also not a part of the Scrum Guide, but my goodness, if half an hour makes them happy and they show up for the sprint review, I would say that's a good investment. So the lonely team, don't blame it on your stakeholders, be creative, and embrace the idea that you have to sell this. You can't expect that people are just enthusiastically flocking to your Scrum flag and without asking any questions. Make sure that they understand why this is important for them, how the team can help them to become successful. And then you should have an easier time to actually get people into the room. The need for control. Oh yeah, my goodness. I was freelancing for a large utility, who, by the way, also has a subsidiary in the UK. And we were building for the UK colleagues a new application where we're insourcing an application. So it was basically a dashboard for the electricity and gas consumption for the consumers. And we had a very strange setup. The QA department was somehow not integrated in our team. So we were working on that. But the gentleman who was running the QA department always insisted on, please let me know your minutes, what is going on. I want to join your retrospective. We always tell them, you can join the retrospective once you become a member of our team. Otherwise we won't share the protocols with you. And he really couldn't understand, how I'm supposed to help you and to guide you. And we said, we will let you know what we need. We will make suggestions. It doesn't mean that you have to participate in our retrospectives. Or that you get access to the minutes. So that was really interesting. It took several months, and then he stopped to actually nagging us. But I think he never understood why we were reluctant to do that, right? And it never occurred to him. And we put a lot of effort into helping him understand why this is so important. Why retrospectives are a safe place, and why Vegas rules apply. And of course, a bit of Sparta helps too. So be very careful if you share anything from your retrospectives, and push back if someone on the management level tries to exercise control that is obviously violating Scrum principles. You typically have to select the hill you would like to die on, and I'm sure this is one of the hills that you might select for that purpose.
Stefan, I don't know if you've seen there, but Mike W has his hand up.
Hello.
Mike, do you have a question? Yeah, question on this. So I'm going through, or have gone through something quite similar to what you've just described there. How did you work with that individual or the people in question that wanted to partake in that retrospective? How did you work with that, and over what length of time was it before they kind of understood? Yeah, how did you work with that person?
Yeah. So what we offered were stakeholder retrospectives.
Okay.
So I think every 6 weeks or so we offered a retrospective, particularly tailored to our stakeholders, and that was very well received. So we tried to overcome this slightly confrontational situation by including them, not in our team retrospective, but by setting up an extra retrospective for the stakeholders, and that proved really to be a quite good move because now they became a part of the solution. It, massively helpful. I continue doing that ever since because from one second to another, you're no longer the team that is not working in the way that you would expect as a stakeholder. But now everyone becomes, you start knowing the people by name. You know, you've been working together in a retrospective. You figured out, okay, where can we improve collaboration? What can we do about? And it moves the discussion to a different level. You know, now you become partners in crime. I was about to say, partners in creating value. You know, and that was actually the part. I don't think that the individual in question ever overcame his need to exercise this level of control. I think it was more a question of, okay, am I about to become redundant, right? Because he was seeing the signs on the wall that an external QA department was really not helpful. I mean, there were several individuals that were basically testing the application, and on the other side, we built a completely integrated continuous delivery system. You know, we could deploy on by a click on a button and receive the 50-page report on what was going on. And I think it was more kind of okay, I proved my utility to the organization by trying to squeeze myself into the team and learning from their retrospectives or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
we never overcame that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting comment from Patrick as well, which is probably where I was going with it as well. Like, is it the lack of transparency? Is there something as a team, either product owner, scrum master, where you can be
Mm.
openly transparent with people like this? That is, so I use a saying called kill with kindness,
Yeah,
almost
yeah,
to
yeah.
go, can you be, almost sickly, overtly, this is what we're doing, back off
Yes.
sort of thing.
Oh, we were completely transparent in
Yeah.
whatever we
Okay.
did, you know. So process, you could come up to us anytime you want. We were showing you around. They had access to our Jira, etc. All the meetings were open. We accepted them into our daily scrums. So we were very transparent about this. But there was this one little part of our process, our team retrospective, was that okay, this is where we draw a line. You know, this is we're not living in a glass house here.
Ron here. I think I've experienced this before, but it would depend on the culture of the company. I mean, I've worked at some companies as a consultant, and you've joined in, and we've where they're playing at Scrum, but also the culture of the company is go to as many meetings as possible.
Yeah.
So you've got stakeholders who have no business being at
Yes.
development meetings and others, but they just attend because, and you get to the point where people attend more meetings than they can actually do the work. Yeah, or they're, so it just gets crazy. And I think the way
Yes.
that I've handled this in the past is to explain to them that, their teams for their meetings for the Scrum team, and that what we would do is, they can speak up at another time. Because also it means that if people are I don't know, if you get somebody quite important turning up at the meeting, others that you need to speak and contribute don't. People tend to go with the hierarchy, which is a problem because then you're not getting a contribution from the people you need to,
Yes.
but you get somebody, I don't know, regional director or somebody who just talks for the sake of it. But
Oh yeah.
they love
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
or their calendar is, oh, I'm always at a meeting, I'm at a meeting, they're full of it. And you're thinking, okay, you don't really need to be here. But I think for some people, it's a shock when you say, You don't actually need to be here, but if you do want to attend, that's fine. But we'd rather you didn't speak and you take it up because it's a stand up and it's a short meeting. And then I think they then tend to get the message.
I fully agree. I fully agree. This was from a cultural perspective was really challenging because it was a classic large organization, you know, where your how shall I put it, where your professional status was somehow also represented by the traits you left in the SharePoint server. You know, so in how many meetings did you participate? You know, how many PowerPoints did you create and something like that? And we all say, okay, this is absolutely of no value to us. You know, we don't need this. You know, and please don't occupy our meetings to just talk about things that you have no clue of. It took some time to get there, but it's a process. You got to start somewhere, and we decided to start. Okay, we're kind. You know. Because it was old-fashioned traditional engineering company, and we thought, okay, we should be kind in the beginning, and we should first prove our utility and that we create value. And once we manage to accomplish that, we can change the pace, you know, because now people believe in us that we actually deliver something of value.
Stefan, we have 2 other hands up. Do you want to take questions now? Is that okay? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have Geetha.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I can very much see myself in the role currently now because I'm also part of this energy sector at the moment, working with this multi-vendor system and going through the same were the discussions that you are talking about this PowerPoint presentations. And they're trying to approach it with a hybrid agile approach. Don't tell me what it is. I'm trying to find out myself what are the boundaries and limitations, where they want agile in that, what agile means for them. It's really a struggle with so many vendors, multiple vendors involved in this program, a massive program, and we are seeking support from a delivery partner who is completely behind the rags, like doing all the traditional stuff. And it's hard. Have you any time, like, and I'm looking for some guidance or some suggestions with the group or with you, how to encounter these patterns, because this is really, it's annoying. I know it is frustrating, but we still have to do the job and try to deliver value and prove the existence of agile in the company and show them the benefits of this, which it's a huge resistance at the moment, and with the limited support from the teams within itself and so many players, because the Scrum team is not part of just our own in-house team. It's part of the vendor developers and the QA from our teams. It's more complicated than ever it can be. So
I'm well aware of the situation. So I recall one situation where we had a team where we hired a team from a vendor, and we told the vendor, okay, but see, we're really practicing Scrum here, and we expect you to join us in the effort. And we asked, okay, is that a problem? And no, absolutely not. We're totally familiar with it, and we started working. And turned out, so it was we were hiring 3 developers from them and to integrate them in our teams. And so we went through great lengths. We invited them to Berlin. They spent several weeks here so that they really got to know everyone on the team. Was a near-shoring contract. And the only problem was that everything was fine. You know, we all got to know them. We made friends with them. It was a good atmosphere. The problem was they had a manager, and the manager always wanted to, I don't know, somehow provide value in the sense that he was used to provide value by writing reports and, you know, having meetings with me regularly twice a week to talk about progress. And I said, dude, I don't need that. What are you talking about? We're totally fine here, you know. So please don't steal my time. You know, just stay out of us, out of the team. You don't interfere. Send us the invoice at the end of the month, and your job is done. And he could not believe it. And it was very hard for him to actually learn this. So you always try to be helpful in the sense of providing reports no one was reading, so it was a difficult time for that individual, by all means. While the developers really enjoyed it, because it was the first project where they were taken seriously and no one was interested in what their boss, the project manager, had to say or do. So that was the fun part. But I never managed to convince the project manager to actually relax and take a back seat and just let other people do their job. So there was a lack of trust that was really hard to believe.
Okay, I'm getting to that actually. Thank you very much. That's really it gives them a different perspective now to think about. Yeah, which we cannot do. Ask the project manager to step back because we have multiple project managers in the program now. Okay, wish me luck. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you for your time.
And then we have one more hand up, Stefan, if that's okay with you, and that is Surichi.
Yes. Yes. So, Stephen, I completely agree, and I'm following this for multiple years, like having only core team members in the retrospective, sprint retrospective. But if some of the action items associated with that come out of retrospective are something related to organization, meaning we need approval on blah blah tool, we need managers approval, we need tweak to this process, we need change to this data environment, we need their support at some point. So if at that point team gets stuck, but still we can't include them in the retro. So in those situations, would it be okay if as a Scrum Master, I conduct a separate retro only with them and the stakeholder and share only those items? Like, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That, for example, was always a part of the stakeholder retrospectives that we organized. And we always shared these organization relevant parts with the stakeholders after every retrospective. I just sanitized the report, the minutes, so to speak. So it was never that Michael demands X. It was always, okay, the team considers X to be useful to bolster value creation or something like that. That was always provided, so it was in the case of closing the loop here. In this case, the individual just wanted to have access to the original content, and that was out of the question.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, good. So number 10, no quality. Wow. This is really an issue. I'm struggling with all the time, and most of the time because people do not understand how important quality is if you want to become agile, right? So if business agility is the name of the game, if that is what your organization wants to accomplish, it basically has two important ingredients. So the two sides of the same medal. One, you have to learn fast, quicker than your competitors about what the next big thing is. So this is really an issue. So where is the mark going? What is the trend? How do we get there? Can we get there faster than the competition? And which then directly leads to the second part. Now, how can we turn our advanced knowledge into marketable product and services? And if you have neglected in the past the technical quality of your product, you won't be able to do that. So it's a complete useless competence if you understand where the market is heading, if you cannot follow up by actually applying a technically superior platform to the problem and excel at what you do. So from my perspective, a high quality product is mission critical if you want to be successful as an organization. If business agility, if outsmarting your competitors, if making more money is having a higher return on investment for everyone involved, if that is the name of your game or your organization's game, you have to invest in quality. And quality means the quality of tools as well as the quality of the people. So you have to allocate permanently resources to exactly that point. So my suggestion always is reserve 15-20% of your capacity to actually preserve quality. You know, if you write software, do refactorings, fix bugs, think about how to improve what you're doing, how you can be better and faster at what you do. Use time to share knowledge among the team members. Do pair programming, mob programming, swarming, whatever comes to mind that is a good tool to spread knowledge, that is mission critical if you want to be really, really successful. And if you want to take it a step further, reserve another 10, 15, 20% maybe as slack time. So keep it as a reserve for things that might come up. If you don't need it, excellent, then you can do something else with that. But otherwise, it will really help you to manage flow and preserve flow and keep a steady value creation for the team in place. So quality is mission critical. And if you're practicing Scrum, I mean, we have a definition of done, and the definition of done is a serious tool to create value and create a return on investment for investors, for example. You know, it's not a question of okay, is that necessary that we do this? You know, so I don't know whether you've ever opened an Apple device, but they are beautifully designed on the inside too, and it is done on purpose. And this is precisely the view that you should have too. You know, you need to have a high quality tech stack, and you need to excel at what you do at a technical level. And it's your job to make sure that this is actually happening. So definition of done, very important. Start small, increase over time. The more you know about the problem and solution space, the more you can fine-tune your definition of done to actually meet exactly customer needs and the organizational needs at the same time. So that is massively important. Of course, there might be an exception. So particularly if you're running a startup and you run out of money, and you, for example, need to match a certain milestone down the road to secure another funding round, and you will not be able to meet the milestone if you stick to your current quality standards. I think that would be the sole exception where I would say, okay, let's reduce our quality aspirations here so that we meet the milestone, get a new funding, and then we actually go back and repair what we did before to secure the new funding round. Because otherwise, you put all the jobs in the startup at risk, and seriously, no one wants to read a headstone that said they died of beauty, right? So that's not what it's all about. But quality is important, and quality is a team job. It's an organizational job, and it's very important. So you can learn a lot from the automotive industry, how they handle it. Just look at Toyota, how they're doing that, and get a better understanding why quality is so important. High quality in the end lowers costs significantly. Okay. Autonomy. Some people have a very strange idea of autonomy. You know, so we believe that we create the best value with self-organizing, self-managing teams. Autonomy in that respect does not mean anarchy, you know. So it's not about everyone decides what they do and what they don't like to do. It's not about cherry picking jobs, for example. It's more about as a team, grow professionally, accept a collaborative responsibility for the outcome, and also accept at the same time that you are responsible for making this happen, and that you actually should make good use of your autonomy that you have, that the trust that people put in you. And I mean, we all know from Daniel Pink's Drive that autonomy, mastery, purpose is the driving motivation behind a lot of knowledge workers, and you should take the autonomy part seriously. There's a reason why we have these checks and balance system in Scrum. Product owner brings business objective, team creates sprint goal, developers commit, developers pick the work. No one tells the developer how to do this. We do not have approval gates. When something is done, it is done, and done always means we can ship it to our customers without any remorse, without any legal, financial, or moral implications. That is the level of autonomy that we actually aspire to achieve, because then everything is fitting together, and we have really an integrated system that is creating the right culture and the right mindset for all participants. So autonomy, I know a lot of people with a classical management education have trouble dealing with that, because if you've been trained that you are the go-to individual for any kind of question, and that you are supposed to have an answer, it is very hard to say, okay, I accept that I'm not telling other people how they solve the problems, that I'm just showing the way, and that I'm just supporting them, and that I'm just responsible for the guardrails. But this is exactly what needs to be, and it's not a new understanding. If you're a bit interested in the history of Agile, you will certainly come across quotes. Okay, I'm going to butcher this one now, but don't tell people what to do and how to do things, but just tell them where they need to be and be surprised how they get there. That supposedly was something from US General Patton in 1944 or something like that. And if you go a bit back further, you will certainly come up with something like commander's intent or Auftragstaktik, so the basic idea of the Prussian army in the 19th century, that of course the troops need to have autonomy. They need to understand the goal. What is the ideal outcome of the action that we're trying to place here, but they need to have autonomy to actually pick the right way of accomplishing the goal, because it is all so complex. There's so much fog around. You cannot guide them, and you cannot control them in the way that you would think. We're not playing a chess game here. It's not a board game. It really does not happen in real life. So autonomy is mission critical if you want to actually have a decent outcome that really provides value to everyone involved: customer, team, stakeholder, organization, and of course the Commonwealth, right? Which brings us to the last one, self-management as a lip service. This is somehow an overlap with the previous one. How shall I put it? There's this strange idea that we can use a framework like Scrum that actually puts a lot of emphasis on self-management and autonomy, and then just reuse it, recycle it as some sort of project management 2.0, waterfall 2.0, so the people who actually tell you what to do and how to do things now just have other names, and then everyone is good to go, right? And we start managing the team by demanding crazy metrics and reports and whatnot, and in the end no one actually believes that this is by all means something similar to Scrum, or what is intended with Scrum, or any other good framework like XP, for example. And classic issue that we always run into. Velocity. There are so many articles why velocity is a very, very difficult metric that you probably should not use. And if you have to use it, or if you want to use it, maybe it's a team internal metric. And other people say, okay, why think about it in the first place? My classes, I run a little exercise, And the exercise goes as follows. Imagine your line manager believes that a good Scrum team increases its velocity regularly. Now, think about ways of how the team may report an increase in velocity regularly to the line manager without working more. And believe it or not, people are really creative in cooking the Agile books. You know, I've never met any team, any class that did not come up with 10, 15, 20 different ideas how to fake an increase in velocity. And the crazy thing is that the managers know that too. And it's obvious. In the moment you turn a metric into a goal, it ceases to be a good metric, and you can basically skip it, you know, because humans are very, very, very creative in making things happen, right? Self-management and lip service does not work. You're either in or out. Self-management is always binary. There are no steps in between. And which brings us actually to, that was the last one. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. You may have noticed I have a new book out. It's the Scrum Anti-Patterns Guide, and where I explore a lot of anti-patterns, some of those that we just said here, had a look at here. And it was an interesting book to write. I learned more than I thought I would. And there's one thing I would really like to point at. It is so easy to point to think about an anti-pattern as, oh my God, this is obvious, you know, this is a low-hanging fruit. But if you start to dig in a bit deeper, you will find interesting elements of why the anti-pattern might have been created in the first place. And the moment you dig a bit deeper into the whole topic, you may find yourself in a situation where the anti-pattern actually is no longer that much of an anti-pattern as it appeared to be in the first time you noticed it. So really interesting. If you'd like to read it, it's available anywhere you can find books. And by the way, there is a reduced version on my blog. It's the predecessor, so to speak. It's a PDF that should also provide you with a good insight. Yeah, and okay, you can skip that, I believe. So if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can Google me, and I will be quite at the top of the list. So, my top 12 Agile anti-patterns.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Do we have any questions that Stefan didn't answer? Was there anything that anybody else wanted to raise? We have a few minutes.
I just wanted to revisit something you discussed earlier. And I think you answered the question a little bit later on, but I just wanted to check. When you talked about quality, I was wondering, when you've got an organization where at a very senior level, they still think in terms of Gantt charts, and at a lower level where it's supporting like Agile, and you're trying to justify the work and trying to explain how much progress has been made. Is it a case of comparing the progress that's been expected in terms of a mix of Agile and quantity and quality, in terms of showing the progress and showing that it's of this quality and this is how much is being done, and showing that in some kind of Gantt chart so that they can visualize that? Is that a way that you can balance that? Because it's coming from senior management, it's very hard to get signed off without being able to justify this.
Well, I would try to figure out what kind of information helps them to make the right decision. And I'm not a fan of Gantt charts. I spent a lot of my working life on creating Gantt charts, and it's completely useless. Yeah, difficult situation. You probably will not convince someone from senior management to join your sprint reviews. They will not have time for this. You will have to probably create some sort of report. The question is how you can tweak the report so it doesn't look like a Gantt chart while providing the confidence to the senior leadership that the thing is on track, right? So I would really reach out to the middle managers to get a better understanding what kind of information they need, and hopefully they will not answer a Gantt chart, but help you to tailor the information that you send them in a way that it could be a substitution for the Gantt chart. I know this sounds a bit lawyery, but you really have to figure out who's that individual, what is the context of the information, and why do they need it? Is that fed into some other systems? How is the reporting aggregated to the top level? Many people are simply not, I mean, you can't expect someone from senior leadership level to have a look at your sprint board and then fully understand what the status is. It simply doesn't work this way. So I would say help them understand the status.
Do you think that the progress is a combination of the quality and the quality? And that balance, if I could represent that in a Gantt chart.
Sure. Yeah, if you manage to squeeze both into it, yeah, why not? But I would, in my experience, what always works best is that you regularly deliver what you promise to deliver. If they can tick the boxes, hey, they promised to deliver this, and they delivered actually, they start to get relaxed a bit. It's like Apple used to massage its stock price for years because they always slightly were better than the forecast of the analysts in their quarterly results. So I would put a lot of emphasis on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. We are just out of time. I know a couple of people had some more questions, so I'm sure you can reach out to Stefan through one of his contact mediums, if Stefan, that's okay with yourself, rather than keeping you late. So if you want to reach out to him separately, I'm sure he can talk about it then. And thank you so much, Stefan. That was a really interesting talk. There's lots of conversation there from the group. That's great. Excellent. So thank you. Folks, next up, we have the Standing Out in a Crowded Job Market on Thursday, May the 23rd at 4 p.m. IST, which I think is 5 p.m. BST. I'll need to check that out. So it's on the Meetup site if you want to sign up for that. The recording for this will be made available after the session. So if you didn't miss any of the great anti-patterns that Stefan talked about at the start, you can catch those in the recording afterwards. And just to say thank you so much, Stefan, for that. It was great. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next meetup.
Thank you.
Let me see now if I know how to stop the recording.
Very much.